Hello, this is Brett Wharton. I am recording this video since my Allstate adjuster told me that he could not view images or videos on Dropbox. These are things that I sent him December 4th. He didn't respond to that email. Then he told me to send them again, but as attachments. So I sent them as attachments. It was less than 20 megabytes or 25 megabytes. But I got a message saying message not delivered, a message size violation. Then I also attempted to send the video. Again, this was under, yeah, it's only 13 megabytes, but I again was getting a message not delivered, message size violation. So then I asked him what other way would he like me to send them, and he said Dropbox wasn't secure. And he told me to send them to my farmer's insurance agent. But my farmer's insurance agent told me that since they concluded their investigation and I was not at fault, there's nothing else that they have to do. And so they told me that I need to work directly with you. Which brings me to this video. So this is the stuff that I have on my iPhone for this collision. And I want to walk you through these. The collision occurred at, the time was 3:30, whoops, the time of the collision was 3:37 p.m. on November 18th, and as soon as it happened, I got out my cell phone and I quickly snapped two pictures, and what I captured on this was Mr. Canning backing his car back into his parking space. He had just, backed up into the side of my vehicle, and then he was driving forward back into his parking space in the immediate aftermath of the collision. So I'll play those two videos now.
So you should call.
And then this video would be recorded at 3:38, I believe. Yes. So this is a live photo. I got out of my car. I left my car exactly where it was. Got out of my car, and I recorded this photo of the damage.
So you should call the. So you should call the.
And then I was a little bit concerned that maybe the photo might not be enough, and I really wanted to show the car's placement on the road. So I also recorded this quick video.
If I can get this in a.
Okay, but Brett, that person.
Well, I don't know if anyone referencing it.
Yeah.
If I can get this in a.
Okay, but Brett, that person.
Well, I don't know if anyone referencing it.
I was a little rushed because there was a woman behind us who was asking us to, please move, so she could get through. And we believe, by the way, that we've found her car. So I'm not sure exactly what home she lives in, but I will attempt to get in touch with her. But anyway, that's why we were kind of rushing to just get this and then clear the road as quickly as possible. I also called the police at 3:38 p.m. on November 18th, and believe I have record of that on my phone as well, or the police would. Then I took a photo, or two photos of Mr. Canning's insurance cards. And then on another day, this is just a later day, I just wanted to create a video that kind of shows this parking area a little bit better for reference. So this is where I usually park, right over here. And this is how I usually back up. I usually back up, and then I'd kind of look from, the sides. I'd look through all the mirrors, and then I usually do a shoulder check. That way I can really see and make sure there's no children or other pedestrians, bikers, and so forth on the road. And so that really is kind of what it was like when, this collision was about to occur. I was looking back here, and then I was turning forward because, you don't stare back here forever. I was turning forward, and then I was just about to, switch into drive. I had already come to a complete stop, and it was while I was at a stop that Mr. Canning went forward and hit me. This is Mr. Canning's car, but please be aware that at the time of the collision, as you could see in those other moving photos and videos, his car was not parked like this. His car was parked the normal way, basically with the rear out facing toward the road. And his car was also positioned in his parking space rather than on the sidewalk like this. So his car was quite a lot closer to my car. So anyway, that's just a reference of kind of the visibility. This is a reference of, our two parking spaces. This is, where I usually park. I'll sometimes park here, sometimes park here. And then this is Mr. Canning's assigned parking place, which is underneath the overhang. So you can see kind of the proximity, and you can see where I'd usually back up and how, I guess he was also trying to back up, but he attempted to do that after I was already in the road. So yeah, there's a close-up on his car there. Hopefully you can recognize it. And there's a close-up on my car. Okay. I recorded this. I took some photos of his car over the last week just to show, in my opinion, it sort of shows that he is, I don't know, I guess it's speculation, but I personally just don't think that he's the most spatially aware person. But this is how he parked. And I truly believe that he probably hit the gas before, before leaving his parking space, because he really approached my car very quickly. And I also think that if someone is, backing up like this, in order to back way beyond their parking space, and actually, it's quite a large parking space, but yet he's only taking up, 50% of it, and then he's got this extra out here. I really think he was probably also hitting the gas just to get backed into this parking space. But that's how he parks on a daily basis. Okay, and then I also just took a screenshot of this. This is the law that I believe is kind of the main point that is at issue, I guess, because it's about limitations on backing. And the law says the driver of a vehicle shall not back the vehicle unless that movement can be made with safety and without interfering with other traffic. My interpretation of that law is that if I backed up and I was already in the middle of the road, and then once I was already in the middle of the road and I was already, at that, 90-degree angle there, I'm ready to drive forward in the road. And then if I'm at that point and then a car starts backing up, I don't really view that as my fault, and I don't see how that's predictable. So I would say at the time that I backed up, there was no evidence that this guy was gonna later on back up. And my girlfriend says that, she was actually watching him from the time he, started moving towards us until he actually hit us. And that was only about, 1 second of movement there. But it all occurred, she said, once I was already in the middle of the road. So there's that. So I think, yeah, the driver of the vehicle shall not back the vehicle unless that movement can be made with safety and without interfering with other traffic. From my perspective, I believe this should have been a safe backing. At the time when I had backed up, it was totally safe. It only became unsafe once Mr. Canning decided to back out of his parking space illegally. On his side, though, I see a fair amount of fault here, if not 100% fault, because the driver of a vehicle shall not back the vehicle unless that movement can be made with safety. So obviously it wasn't safe for him to back into my vehicle. And then also, without interfering with other traffic, I would say that if I was already positioned on the road, then I am traffic, and so he should not have been backing up into my car. But anyway, I also want to show you this Dropbox video. There's some more photos and videos. These I sent to Allstate on December 4th. Unfortunately, they were not willing to open up a Dropbox file or emails, or for whatever reason they gave me an email address that can't receive, relatively small files. But anyway, so this is where Mr. Canning parks, and this is where I park. I kind of sometimes go between these two spaces. Usually I'll pick this one, unless, it's already taken by another car. My girlfriend parks in my parking space, which is over here. Okay. Here's a overview. I took this screenshot on Google Maps. This is basically my car right here. And then this is Mr. Canning's car. Those are the relative positions of these two cars. Now, what I was attempting to do was, to back up and then go forward. And as you can see in that video, I had already completed the part of backing up, and I was about to drive forward. I was at a complete stop at the time he backed up and hit me. And that's basically what happened. I had backed up, and then at that point, the back of his car, you imagine, would be about right here, right? So all he had to do was go about 10 feet or less to hit the side of my car. And I calculated to drive back 10 feet at 5 miles per hour. That occurs in 1 second. That's just how the math works out. So I think that lines up pretty, accurately with my girlfriend and my memory of it happening very, very quickly. And if you're wondering, well, why couldn't I respond in 1 second? Why couldn't I drive away or honk at him? Keep in mind, like, at the time, I was looking back here. And then I was turning my head to look forward, largely because I was going to, put my car into drive and then start moving forward. But then I did notice the movement. And basically, by the time I noticed the movement and, took like that half a second to kind of register that something is moving, because you can't register movement in milliseconds. You need some time to actually recognize that something is moving from point A to point B. You need some measure of time. And so I would say that in the half second that I recognized the movement, it had basically already hit me because it was so close. So I recognized movement, and then, yeah, I was about to respond to that, but it was over by the time I recognized the movement and was ready to respond to it. I think that's kind of how quickly those things can happen if cars are in that kind of proximity to each other. Yeah, I totally wish that I could have avoided it, but realistically, I don't even think if I had somehow managed to honk, and been just a few milliseconds faster, I don't think that he would have had time to react either, because if he couldn't react while seeing my car in his rearview mirror, I don't see how he's going to react to, my honk. And how is he going to be able to react in literally milliseconds? Because we're measuring time that's less than a second. So, yeah, I hope that these illustrations help kind of show. And I totally invite you to come out to the parking lot. I hope you already have. Come out to the parking lot and check out, the positions of these cars, and you can even line up the road with those videos that I took, because they show where my car is on the road. So this is that video that I basically already just showed you. I'll go back so we don't have to see that again. This is that live photo. As you can see, this is just a still photo. That's why I recorded this on my iPhone. That way you can see the, it's just a few seconds of movement that Apple is able to capture. And with that movement, you can definitely see the car passing over space and the car actually going back into the parking space. So I did want to show you that on the little video clips that iPhone is able to show. But on these, I just have these still photos because I don't really know how to export a live photo. Okay, so this is the photo of the damage that was taken. This is, well, we'll see what it is in a second. Oh, shoot, it's the same. Photo of the damage. This is video of the damage. Same thing that I
get this in a...
showed you.
Brett, that person
Well,
is
I don't know if...
You can hear my girlfriend urging me to get out of the road quickly. That's why the video is pretty short. And then this is, yep, already looked at 7B. Here's 8A, yeah, and then these I put them in there so that you would see, like, that's literally all I was able to capture during that amount of time. As you can see, it's, a very short period of time. It's really just 3:37 to 3:38, and I would estimate that by, 3:40 or so, I had already, moved my car back. I did call the police before moving my car back because I thought they would come out and take a report, but they told me to just call the insurance companies instead. So at that time, I did move my cars back. I moved my car back into its parking space, and then yeah. So that's it. Just wanted to show you those photos and videos. Just make sure that you have access to them. Yeah. All right, before wrapping up, I wanted to walk through this section from the Idaho Driver's Manual, which is on the idaho.gov website. Piece of case law that I think is relevant. It references a couple different cases. This, I understand, is from the Court of Appeals of Idaho. And then also there are a few statutes that I think are relevant to this case. I want to walk through each of those. So obviously Allstate is stating that I am 50% responsible for this accident because I was backing up improperly. But when I review the Idaho Driver's Manual, I don't see any evidence that I was doing anything wrong when I backed up. It says that, backing is always prohibited on freeways, expressways, and other controlled access highways. That's not relevant, but this part is. It says backing elsewhere, like in a parking lot like this, backing is prohibited unless it can be done safely and without interfering with other traffic. So for my own part, when I backed up my car and I got myself into the middle of the road, I would say that I did that safely. I didn't hit any pedestrians, any bicyclists, any cars. No one had to, get out of the way to avoid me. I was looking through my back window just like I was supposed to. So I was backing up safely, and I came to a complete stop. I was in the middle of the road, ready to drive forward. And I also didn't interfere with other traffic that was on the road at the time. Like I said, no one had to move out of the way to avoid me. So I see it as I completed a safe backup, if that's a word, when I was backing up. On the other hand, Mr. Canning, when he backed up, I think he violated this rule. It says backing is prohibited unless it can be done safely. Well, when he hits my car, and the passenger side, I don't think that's safe. I'm thankful my car is good enough that, my girlfriend wasn't injured in any way. And also, it says that it's prohibited if it interferes with other traffic. And I think obviously hitting a car is interfering with traffic, especially given that my car was on the road at the time it was hit. And you can tell that by, the fact that I recorded this video right after the incident happened, before moving my car. And there's Mr. Canning standing right there. And I hope, if he's honest, he will confirm I didn't move my car at all. I recorded this immediately after it happened and called the police so that they could, accurately report where this positioning was. But I think the positioning of the cars is very important. If these two cars had both backed up at the same time, then, given their position on the road, they would have backed up straight into each other. Like I tried to show in that overview, our cars are kind of directly opposed from each other. So if we had backed up at the same time and we had both been negligent, then really the backs of our two cars would have hit each other, especially since I was backing up this way to go this way, and he was also backing up this way to go this way. But what really happened was I backed up, and then he backed up. And I think that just makes all the difference when you're reviewing this. Because when I backed up, there wasn't traffic that I had to be aware of. But when he backed up, I was the traffic, and he had a responsibility to be aware of me. So as I see it, when I backed up, it was safe, and I wasn't breaking this rule. But when he backed up, it wasn't safe. And I think the whole 50-50 ruling is totally unfair on that basis. I pulled up this piece of case law. This is from the Idaho Court of Appeals, and it just references a couple cases, so I hope that that's kind of helpful. I understand that in law you kind of reference different cases so that you know how to rule on future cases. So it says, in Conreg versus Kickox, Idaho, blah, 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 expresses the rule as follows. Ordinarily, a motorist may assume that other travelers will obey the rules of the road, at least in the absence of anything which, in the exercise of reasonable care, would put him on the notice to the contrary. So when I backed up, there was no notice or nothing that would lead me to believe that there was a guy sitting in his car who was about to back up. When I backed up, all the cars in the parking lot were totally still, and I was backing up slowly and carefully, looking out for movement, but there wasn't any at the time, and that's why Mr. Canning impacted the side of my car, because I had finished backing up. But anyway, back to this. Where he is himself observing the regulations for traffic on the highway, he has a right to its use superior to that of one who is violating traffic regulations. So my interpretation is that basically once I was on the road, I had a right to use that road. I had a right of way, and that right is kind of superseding the right of other drivers who might be parked, or who are violating traffic regulations by backing up unsafely, as shown in that driver's manual excerpt. Okay. Similarly, in a separate case, Holland versus Patterson, a correct general statement of the law, okay, as a correct general statement of the law, a jury instruction saying that every person who is himself exercising ordinary care has a right to assume that every other person will perform his duty and obey the law, and in the absence of reasonable cause for thinking otherwise, it is not negligence for such a person to assume that he is not exposed to danger, which can come to him only from a violation of law or duty by another person. And I think this is hugely relevant here, because Allstate is saying that I was negligent for backing up. But according to this law, and it says that it's a general statement of the law, and this is the law in Idaho, I am not negligent for assuming that I am not exposed to danger because someone else is going to violate the law or duty by another person. So as I see that, Allstate's claim that I'm being negligent for backing up and assuming that this road is safe and that no car is going to unexpectedly, after I finish backing up, that some car is going to unexpectedly back up into me. I don't, it doesn't even make sense to me, that argument. I just think it's pretty clear. This is saying that I'm not negligent for assuming that other cars are going to stay put in their parking space while I back up. Yeah. So, anyway, this is an Idaho statute. So, I hope that this kind of shows at least my perspective. I don't see that I did anything wrong, but I do think he did things wrong. But hopefully that's pretty clear. Here's some more details. It says, no person shall start movement of a vehicle which is stopped, standing, or parked unless movement can be made with reasonable safety. I would say that when I backed up, there was absolutely reasonable assumption of safety because I looked at the parking lot. It was empty. There weren't cars or people there. It was totally safe, a safe time to back up. However, When Mr. Canning backed up, um, he violated this law, I believe. I mean, it says you're not supposed to start your vehicle. He started his vehicle, which is stopped, obviously, standing or parked. That's the condition his vehicle was in when he started it, unless movement can be made with reasonable safety. And obviously, it wasn't safe because he hit his car. He hit my car. So the way I see it with this law, I didn't break it, but Mr. Canning did. And so again, I think, accusing me of being 50% to blame is totally unfair. Here's another statute. It says, this is Idaho Statute Title 49, the driver of a vehicle shall not back the vehicle unless that movement can be made with safety and without interfering with other traffic. Okay, that's slightly different from this one, but again, when I backed up, it was safe and there was no traffic on the road. So again, I don't see that I was being negligent. However, I do see that Mr. Canning was being negligent because his movement clearly interfered with my girlfriend's safety, and it obviously interfered with traffic. I'm in the middle of the road here. I should be considered traffic. Now it says the driver of a vehicle shall not back it upon any shoulder or lane of travel, controlled access highway. So that's basically a reiteration of what's already printed here in the manual. Okay. So next, is that the same thing? No, it's not. Here we go. So lastly, this is same statute 49 in Idaho. Notwithstanding other provisions of this title or other provisions of local ordinance, every driver of a vehicle shall exercise due care to avoid colliding with any pedestrian or any person propelling a human-powered vehicle, and shall give an audible signal when necessary. Every driver shall exercise proper precaution upon observing any child or obviously confused, incapacitated, or intoxicated person. So I would say that when I backed up, by looking through my rear view mirrors, by turning to directly look and shoulder check, like I was exercising due care. I was exercising the due care that's outlined in the Idaho driver's manual. And I was doing what I was supposed to be doing to avoid colliding with pedestrians, other people, and other vehicles that were on the road, because those are the kinds of things that one should be looking out for if one is exercising due care when you're backing up. However, so as I see it, again, not negligent. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. But when I contrast that with Mr. Canning, he didn't exercise due care. He wasn't looking where he was going. He was obviously going too fast, or he would have been able to stop. He certainly didn't issue an audible signal to tell me, hey, I'm backing up, get out of my way. So I don't see that he was doing any of this. I see that he was totally breaking this statute. And there is one point that I want to point out with the audible signal. I think I've already went over this, but when these cars are less than 10 feet away, if the guy chooses to hit the gas and back up into my car, given that I was looking behind me because I was just beginning to turn and look forward, there really wasn't time to respond to that. And I don't know if Allstate is saying that I should have done the audible signal, because that was what they said originally. Then they said that I was negligent for improper backing. So I'm not sure whether they're really still telling me I was negligent for this or not. But please just refer to what I said earlier. I don't think there was time at all in 1 second to observe motion and respond to that motion, let alone for the other driver to respond to an audible signal. By the time I was about to honk, he had already crashed, and so I didn't honk once the crash had already occurred. So anyway, that's that part. So I wanted to wrap up this video with a statement. This is all that it is. I tried to keep it short. My conclusion is that I was not at fault. I didn't break any laws. If I broke a law, I would like Allstate to specifically tell me what law I broke, because I don't see anything I followed the Idaho driver's manual without any discrepancies. If you go through here and you look for backing, there's a section on backing, and I was following the exact procedure that is described in the manual. You're supposed to check behind the vehicle. You're supposed to look out for children. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm supposed to put my right arm on the back of the seat and look over the shoulder directly through the rear window. And that's precisely why it took time for me to turn around, like I showed you in this other video. When you're looking through the back window like it describes, it takes some time to turn around. Notice this guy's about to hit you, and then I swear, by that point, by the time you recognize the motion, it's over. Because this is all happening in about 1 second. Okay? So anyway, I was following that, and I was backing up slowly, and that's why, yeah, I finished backing up. I was in the middle of the lot. And it says continue looking back until you come to a complete stop. And that's what I had done. I had come to a complete stop, and I was just starting to look forward. I was following this exactly. So I don't see how Allstate can tell me that I was improperly backing. Yeah. On the other hand, I don't see how, Mr. Canning was doing any of this. I don't see how he could have possibly checked behind his vehicle before he got in, or he would have seen my car. I don't see how he could have possibly put his arm on the back of the seat and look over the shoulder without seeing my car. I don't see how he could have looked through the rear window without seeing my car. I don't see how he was backing up slowly, or he would have been able to stop. It says your difficult's more difficult to control while backing. Continue looking back until you come to a complete stop. Mr. Canning, if he was looking back until he came to a complete stop, he would have seen my vehicle and he would have stopped, but he didn't do that. So again, I'm recognizing a huge difference between the way I backed up and the way that Mr. Canning backed up. And again, I don't think that Allstate's accusation that I'm 50% responsible, or that I'm responsible for any improper backing, is justified. Okay, sorry for that tangent there. But anyway, I followed Idaho's driver's manual without any discrepancies. Mr. Canning was at fault. He broke multiple laws. I've described these here and here and here and here. He didn't even follow the basic rules of any driver's manual. Pay attention to where you're going, watch where you're going, don't go faster than you can see, and control your vehicle. If you had to sum up what are the basic things you need to do when driving in order to operate a vehicle safely, I think that's what you would probably say. And I don't think he was doing any one of these things when he backed into me. And so, as a result of the difference here, I do not see Allstate's view of this case as just, and I am just asking that Allstate call Farmers Insurance and work with them to reach a consensus. From my understanding and my readings, in the vast majority of cases, insurance companies are able to work together. And so personally, I'm disappointed that my adjuster was unable to do this. Allstate's core values, according to their website, are honesty, caring, and integrity. So I was disappointed in my Allstate adjuster's conduct when, after 5 minutes, he told me that he didn't have time to talk to me, and then he hung up the phone. In my view, and just based on what I was always taught as a kid, I guess, stealing is wrong, and damaging someone's property is a form of stealing, and it's theft. And I want anyone watching this to know that I work for $13 an hour every night. I work multiple jobs in order to pay off my student loan debt. I work very hard. So this is a lot of money for me to get my car fixed. It will take me hundreds of hours of work to earn the cost to repair my car. And personally, I will consider it theft if Allstate attempts to unjustly avoid paying the damages that they owe. I think any reasonable person would be able to see that I had the right of way. In this case, I was in the middle of the road, and some other car that was not in the road decided to come out in and back straight into the side of my car. I think any reasonable person would be able to see I had the right of way, that I was not at fault for being in the middle of the road when another driver decided to back out and hit the side of my car. I hope this video provides an opportunity to Allstate to review the property damage and the law, and then accept responsibility for your insured driver's illegal action and the property damage that he has caused. And I truly hope Allstate will do the right thing. According to your website, these are your values. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.